In a packed Washington, D.C. auditorium, with millions watching live across the nation, Jimmy Kimmel locked eyes with President Donald Trump and unleashed a savage, career-ending bombshell that ripped the mask off Trump's carefully crafted image, triggered an explosive red-faced meltdown, and turned what was supposed to be a simple Q&A into the most jaw-dropping, chaotic confrontation America had ever seen on live television. This wasn't just another late-night talk show appearance or a regular town hall. It was a highly anticipated live Q&A event called Straight Talk with the President, broadcast nationwide. But from the very first minute, the tension was already thick in the air. When Jimmy Kimmel walked out, the crowd exploded into applause. Some jumped to their feet, cheering loudly. Jimmy gave a quick smile and a nod, but his eyes were serious. He knew tonight wasn't going to be just another funny interview. President Trump sat in the center of the stage, legs crossed, looking completely relaxed and in control. His chin was up, mouth set in that familiar half-smile that said he was ready for anything. The two men shook hands briefly for the cameras, but the tension between them was already there, sharp and unspoken. Jimmy started off easy, keeping things light at first. He asked about job numbers, how the economy was doing in certain states, and what Trump thought about bringing more factories back. The audience clapped politely. Trump answered smoothly, throwing out his usual lines about making America great again and beating expectations. For a few minutes, it almost felt like a normal town hall. But then Jimmy leaned forward a little, his voice steady and direct. He looked straight at the president and dropped the question everyone had been waiting for. Mr. President, inflation is crushing families. People aren't happy. What real steps are you taking to help them? The words hit the room like a slap. The clapping stopped. The whispers died. Suddenly, the whole hall went quiet. Parents in the crowd, workers, young couples, you could see them leaning in, waiting for the answer. Trump's face changed instantly. His smile disappeared. His cheeks turned red and his eyes narrowed. He leaned forward fast, pointing his finger right at Jimmy. His voice came out sharp and angry, louder than anyone expected. "You're only asking that because you took bribes from Obama to plot against me," he shot back. "And let's not forget, Obama's birth certificate was fake. He was never even a real American. You're just his lapdog, Jimmy. Everybody knows it." The audience froze. A few people gasped out loud. Others sat there with their mouths half open, shocked into silence. No one had expected the president to go straight for the throat like that, especially not this early. Jimmy stayed calm on the outside, but his eyes locked on Trump. Then Trump jabbed his finger harder toward Jimmy, his face getting even redder. The whole room could see the anger boiling over. "You and Obama both. We'll deport you," he barked, his voice booming across the hall. "You've been working against me from day one." Gasps rippled through the crowd. People sat frozen in their seats. No one moved. The polite applause from earlier was completely gone. Mothers clutching their purses, guys in work jackets, college kids, everybody just stared, mouths open. The threat hung in the air like smoke. It felt real, and it felt dangerous. Jimmy didn't yell back. He didn't even flinch. He looked straight at Trump and spoke in a calm, clear voice that cut through the tension. "You're the first president who deports his own people without reason," Jimmy said. "You set daily targets, and their only crime is not being happy with your government." The words landed hard. A few people in the audience nodded slowly. Others shifted uncomfortably, like they were watching something they couldn't look away from. Trump's eyes widened for a split second, then narrowed again. He slammed his hand on the arm of his chair and leaned in even closer. "This is all because of Obama and his lapdog right here," he growled, pointing again. "You two have been scheming against me non-stop. Days like this only happen because of weak leaders like him and fake reporters like you." Jimmy let the shouting settle for half a second, then hit back with a simple question. "Can you prove that a man who served 2 terms as president is un-American. Dead silence. The hall went completely quiet. Not a cough, not a whisper, not even the sound of someone shifting in their seat. Trump opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time that night, he didn't have an instant comeback. His usual fast-talking rhythm broke. The audience felt it, that heavy, uncomfortable pause that made everyone hold their breath. It was like watching a heavyweight boxer get tagged right on the chin. Trump tried to recover fast. He forced a sharp laugh and shook his head. "You know what's really funny?" he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "This coming from Jimmy Kimmel, the guy who spent years making cheap jokes and pushing fake news every single night. You're not a journalist. You're a comedian who hates me. That's all this is." He sat back, looking satisfied, like he had just scored a big point. Jimmy didn't miss a beat. He looked Trump dead in the eyes and answered with one short, cutting line. "At least my jokes don't come with deportation threats, Mr. President." The words hit like a slap. Trump's smirk froze. He blinked once, twice, clearly thrown off. For a moment, he didn't know what to say next. The audience felt the shift. Some people let out nervous laughs, others just stared wide-eyed. Jimmy let the heavy silence sit for just a second, then leaned forward a little in his chair. His voice stayed calm and steady, like he was talking about the weather instead of dropping a bomb. "I have proof." The 3 words hit the room hard. People stopped moving. The quiet that followed felt electric. Everyone could tell something big was coming. Jimmy didn't rush. He looked Trump right in the eyes and kept his tone even. "Your marriage to Melania is fake. You did it to hide your inappropriate relationship with your daughter Ivanka. It didn't stay hidden. Barron stands as living proof." The hall erupted in shock. Gasps flew out from every direction. A woman in the 3rd row actually let out a loud, "Oh my God." Several people covered their mouths. Others turned to the person next to them with wide eyes, whispering fast. The comfortable tension from before was gone. This was raw. This was personal. The audience sat frozen, hearts pounding, waiting to see what would happen next. Trump's face went from red to deep purple in an instant. His eyes bulged, and his whole body jerked forward. He slammed both hands on the arms of his chair and exploded. "Curse you and whoever fed you that garbage," he shouted, his voice cracking with fury. He jabbed his finger straight at Jimmy, stabbing the air like he wanted to punch him. "You're sick. This is the most disgusting lie I've ever heard. You should be ashamed of yourself." Spit flew from his mouth as he kept yelling. His neck veins stood out. The whole stage seemed to shake with his anger. Some people in the back rows actually leaned away, like they were afraid he might storm off the stage and come into the crowd. The security guys standing near the sides looked nervous, shifting their weight and watching closely. Jimmy didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He just sat there, looking at Trump with the same steady expression. When the shouting finally paused for breath, Jimmy spoke again, clear and firm. "Prove me wrong," he said. "I'll give you time." The challenge hung in the air. Trump stared at him, breathing hard, chest rising and falling fast. For a moment, it looked like he was about to scream again. Then he tried to laugh it off, a short, forced laugh that came out shaky. "This is the most ridiculous conspiracy I've ever heard," Trump said, forcing a sneer onto his face. But his voice wavered on the last few words. It trembled just enough for everyone to notice. That little shake gave him away. The audience saw it clearly. The first real crack in his armor, the first sign that the big, confident president was starting to panic underneath all the rage. Whispers spread through the rows like wildfire. "Did you hear that?" one guy muttered to his wife. A young woman in the middle section shook her head slowly, eyes glued to Trump. People were no longer just shocked. They were watching something break in real time. The man who always fired back instantly was struggling to keep control, and everyone in the hall could feel it. Jimmy stayed quiet for a beat, letting the moment sink in. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply waited, eyes locked on Trump, ready for whatever came next. The silence in the room grew heavier, thicker, pressing down on everyone. Jimmy didn't wait for Trump to recover. He reached over, picked up a small remote, and pressed play. The big screen behind them lit up. The lights in the hall dimmed just enough so everyone could see clearly. The video started. It was real footage, old clips from interviews and rallies. Trump's own voice filled the hall, loud and unmistakable. "If she weren't my daughter, I'd date her," he said on screen, smiling. Then another clip. "She's a piece of ass." And another. "Ivanka's beautiful, incredibly beautiful." The words kept coming, one after another. Each line hit harder than the last. The audience lost it. Sharp gasps echoed everywhere. A woman in the front row covered her mouth with both hands. Several people sucked in breath so loud it sounded like hisses. One older man shook his head slowly, eyes wide with disbelief. No one spoke at first. They just stared at the screen, frozen in shock. The clips played on, showing Trump laughing and praising his daughter in ways that made the whole room uncomfortable. On stage, Trump went completely stiff. His face drained of color, turning pale and gray. His eyes locked onto the screen like he couldn't look away. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. For the first time all night, he looked truly rattled. Then, from the middle of the audience, a man suddenly stood up. He was in his late 40s, wearing a simple dark suit. His voice cut through the tension like a knife. "I was there," he shouted, loud enough for the whole hall to hear. "I worked in the White House. I heard worse things than that. Way worse. This isn't even the half of it." The hall exploded into chaos. People started talking all at once. Loud whispers turned into shocked murmurs. Some clapped, others booed. A few stood up too, pointing and arguing with the people next to them. The noise grew fast, a messy wave of disbelief and outrage rolling through the crowd. Security guards looked around nervously, not sure whether to step in. Trump snapped out of his shock. He jumped to his feet, face twisting with rage again. "Turn that off," he screamed, pointing wildly at the screen. "Shut it down right now. This is fake. This is rigged." His voice cracked as he yelled. He waved his arms like he wanted to smash the screen himself. Jimmy stayed seated, completely calm. He looked at Trump and spoke in a clear, steady voice that cut through the noise. "The American people deserve to see the truth." That line only made it worse. Trump lost control completely. He stepped forward, pointing straight at Jimmy's face, his hand shaking with anger. "You're finished!" he roared. "You hear me? You're done. My people will destroy you. You won't have a career left after tonight." His face was bright red again, veins bulging in his neck. He looked ready to charge across the stage. The audience was on edge, some cheering, some yelling back, the whole hall buzzing with raw energy. Jimmy didn't give Trump any time to catch his breath. While the video was still playing in the background, he leaned forward and spoke clearly into the microphone. "I'm not done yet. I have more proof." He nodded to the technician off stage. A new audio clip started. It was a private recording, Trump's voice low and casual, talking to someone close to him. "The family is just a front," Trump said on the tape. "Use them as a shield when things get messy. It works every time." The words echoed through the hall. The audience reacted instantly. More gasps, more whispers, a few people shaking their heads in disbelief. The tension that had already been sky-high climbed even higher. Trump's eyes widened. He pointed at Jimmy again, voice rising. "After tonight, you won't have a career left," he shouted. "I'll make sure of it. You'll be done in this town." He said it with real venom, like he was issuing an official threat right there on live television. The crowd murmured louder. Some looked genuinely scared for Jimmy. Jimmy looked Trump dead in the eyes and answered in a cold, steady voice. "Threatening a citizen on live television? That's a new low, even for you." The line landed hard. A few people in the audience clapped. Others nodded. Trump's face twisted with fresh anger. Jimmy kept going, not giving an inch. And it wasn't just talk. During your time in office, you ordered staff to hide several private meetings with Ivanka. Closed doors, no records, no witnesses. You told them to make sure nobody found out. That hit like another punch. The hall buzzed with shocked voices. People were leaning forward, phones up, recording every second. Trump tried to fight back. He raised both hands and started yelling over the noise. "This is all a deep state setup," he roared. "You're just a tool for the radical left. Obama's people are still running everything behind the scenes, and you're their puppet." He kept going, throwing out the usual names and conspiracy lines, trying to flip the script and put Jimmy on defense. But Jimmy was ready. He pointed at the screen where the old video clips were still frozen. "You just said on tape that you use your family as a shield," Jimmy said calmly. "Yet now you're claiming it's all fake news and conspiracies. Which one is it, Mr. President? Because your own words keep catching up with you." Trump froze for half a second, then completely lost it. He took 2 fast steps toward Jimmy, face red with rage, fists clenched like he was about to charge across the stage. "You son of a—" Security guards rushed in immediately. 2 big guys in suits grabbed Trump by the arms and held him back before he could get any closer. Trump struggled against them, still shouting and pointing. The hall erupted into total chaos. Half the audience started cheering and chanting, "USA, USA." The other half booed loudly, some yelling, "Let him speak," while others shouted, "Disgrace!" People stood up, arguing with each other across the rows. The noise was deafening, a wild mix of anger, shock, and raw energy. Cameras flashed everywhere. It felt like the entire event was about to explode. Jimmy stayed seated, watching it all with a calm expression. He didn't smile, he didn't gloat. He simply waited for the storm to settle, eyes still locked on the man being held back on the other side of the stage. Trump couldn't take it anymore. His face was twisted with pure rage, as the security guards still held his arms. He shook them off hard, stepped back, and let out one final roar that echoed through the entire hall. "This is a witch hunt! You're all against me!" he screamed, voice hoarse and breaking. "I'm done with this bullshit." He turned sharply and stormed off the stage, shoes pounding loudly on the floor. The audience watched in stunned silence as the President of the United States walked out mid-event, shoulders tight, fists still clenched at his sides. But right before he disappeared behind the curtain, Trump spun around one last time. He pointed straight at Jimmy with a shaking finger and shouted at the top of his lungs, "You're a traitor! You'll pay for this, Kimmel! Mark my words!" The hall held its breath. Every eye was on Jimmy. Jimmy leaned slightly into the microphone and answered in a calm, ice-cold voice that carried perfectly through the speakers. "And you just proved to every American watching that you can't handle the truth." Those few words hit like a final punch. The entire room went dead silent. Not a single cough, not a whisper. The heavy quiet pressed down on everyone like a weight. People sat frozen, processing what they had just witnessed. Then the silence broke. Soft murmurs started spreading through the rows. Some people began clapping slowly. Others just sat there with their mouths open, looking completely shocked. A few stood up, still staring at the empty side of the stage where Trump had been. The energy in the hall felt completely drained and electric at the same time. Jimmy stayed seated for a moment, letting the moment settle. When the noise quieted down a little, he spoke again, his voice steady and clear. "This wasn't about winning or losing tonight," he said. "It was about the truth and holding power accountable. That's what the American people deserve, real answers, not threats and tantrums." He gave a small nod to the audience, stood up slowly, and walked off the stage without another word. No victory lap, no celebration, just quiet composure. The crowd didn't rush to leave. People stayed in their seats for a long minute, talking in low, excited voices. "Did that really just happen?" one woman asked her husband. A group of young guys in the back were already replaying the video on their phones, shaking their heads. Others sat quietly, still processing the raw confrontation they had seen unfold live. As people finally started filing out of the hall, the buzz grew louder. Groups gathered in the lobby, arguing passionately, some defending Trump, others praising Jimmy for not backing down. The night had left everyone rattled. No one was walking away unchanged. What started as a simple question about inflation had turned into one of the most explosive evenings in recent memory, a raw, unfiltered look at power, ego, and the courage to demand truth. So what do you think? Was Jimmy right to push that hard, or did he cross the line? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. Let's hear it, because nights like this don't happen every day, and the conversation is just getting started.